SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
State Treasurer David McRae has put hundreds of millions back into the hands of Mississippi's citizens, expanding the state's affordable college and career savings program and also returning record amounts of unclaimed money. Check out how Treasurer David McRae's office can help you, your business, or your organization. Treasury.ms.gov.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive. But now I'm a man, way past 21.
Hello and good morning. Welcome to the month of April. Start of a new month, a new day on Super Talk Mississippi, a new day across the Magnolia State. We're glad to be with you on this first day of April 2026. It is Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi, presented by Community Bank, rooted in our community, communitybank.net. Hump Day, middle of the week. Alongside Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard Cross. Thanks for joining us. Lance, good morning.
Good morning. How's it going today? How was golf yesterday?
Man, it was fun.
I bet.
It was fun.
Windy a little bit.
The wind blew.
Beautiful day.
As is almost always the case. It was a beautiful day. And good results, too. Obi played well. I was proud of him. It was first school golf tournament. Every shot counted. Every putt had to drop. No gimmies, no mulligans, no pick 'em up because it's only a 2-footer and move on to the next hole. And broke 100. He shot 97 yesterday.
Nice.
That was fun.
Yeah.
It was really fun. It was neat for me to watch him, too. Jane went, and it was great.
What tees do they play from at that level and age, as far as like high school tournaments and such?
I think they had 5 sets of tees yesterday. He's in 7th grade and was not trying to. So to qualify for state, I guess this is in the MAIS. I think you've got to break 85, and he played 1 tee up from that. From the, I guess the blue tees were the 3s, so he played from the 4s yesterday.
Good start though.
Oh man, yeah, and a good golf course. That Riverbend Golf Links Riverbend Links rather, has been there for 30 years now, I guess, give or take. We talked with Webster Franklin last week about the golf in Tunica County. You know, at one point you had 3 really good golf courses there. You had Tunica National, Cottonwoods was the course at the Grand, and then you had Riverbend, which was kind of maintained jointly by the casinos. And really fun layout, pretty open, little more of a link style. They call it a link style. I don't know if I would necessarily say that. You don't necessarily have one fairway that just spills into another in many places, but it was cool. Really, really fun day. And you're kind of going to get a carbon copy today from a weather standpoint, not just in North Mississippi, but all across the state. Tupelo, you're going to be in the upper 70s, may get to the low 80s today with overnight lows coming tonight in the mid-60s, mostly cloudy. Chance of thunderstorms, especially in the afternoon or the evening, with a south-southeast wind at about 10 miles per hour. If you were listening yesterday, that sounds like an identical forecast to what you had yesterday. Going to be right around 80 today in Meridian, with lows tonight in the low 60s, partly cloudy, possible scattered showers and thunderstorms in the afternoon. By the way, the forecast for this week has gotten better as we've gotten into this week. If you looked at it, you were looking a week out a few days ago, and it looked like it was going to rain all week long, and just hasn't been the case at all. Some pop-up thunderstorms in some different places. We got one of those in Oxford last night. Just kind of came out of nowhere. It was sunny and a little bit of a breeze, and then all of a sudden you had a thunderstorm warning. How about Southwest Mississippi? Go ahead.
I was just saying we had a few of those yesterday. They weren't nothing severe, but just enough to wet everything down enough to get some of the yellow dust kind of settled.
Knocked a little of it back.
A little bit.
And in some places it was just enough you had the yellow dust on your car, and then the little bit of rain came, and it just made like the yellow splotches. It didn't even wash it all away.
It's like a raindrop of yellow.
That's right. Centerville, Southwest Mississippi, low 80s today. It'll be mid-60s tonight for the overnight low. Chance of showers, especially later in the day. Winds out of the south at 8 to 10 miles an hour. And in Biloxi, lovely Biloxi, slightly cooler near the coast area due to that sea breeze coming in. Upper 70s, mid-60s for the lows, mostly cloudy, partly sunny. Going to be warm and a little humid today as well in Biloxi. So a pretty good day across the Magnolia State, whether you are trying to get out and play golf, or maybe you're going fishing, or talk to a bunch of people that are out chasing turkeys.
Yeah.
'Tis the season.
It's fun to chase them, too. Even better to eat them.
Yeah. I have said a million times, those the people that are serious about turkey hunting, different breed.
Well,
you know those guys, don't you?
Yeah,
that,
my dad's one
during
of
this
them.
time of year, you ask me, hey, how many times are you going to go? Well, the season's only about 5, maybe 6 weeks, and I don't know if I'll be able to get up every day, but there's a chance. Going to try and knock out every single day of turkey season.
Yeah, you
and
gotta have a little
that's
drive. Because the weather, it gets a little warm, a little snaky, and a little buggy. But, if you're a turkey man, I grew up with a father and an uncle that made turkey calls, like the box cedar ones. And you had the they got pretty high tech with it and had all these names for them, and then even down to the simple ones where you'd have like a little box turtle shell and a piece of chalkboard. And, it was always fun. But, yeah, my father was one of those. He still is. He's just gotten a little bit not that mad at him anymore. But, man, he'd go every day of turkey season down to Pinola.
Joey the trucker on the C Spire text line. Best way for you to join the conversation, 601-879-4395. Joey says this is going to be his only message. He says, good morning, y'all. I'm just going to listen today.
Is this April Fool's Day, Joey? Come on, man.
I don't know.
I want your participation.
It is April 1st. It is April Fool's Day. That's more of a public service announcement than anything. I don't have any plans to try and pull one on you as we roll through the show this morning.
Well, I noticed on the syllabus this morning there was no Christy. There was no Christy Noam updates. So you did see about that yesterday, I'm sure.
Oh my!
I thought it was going to be an April Fool's thing at first, but.
Christy Noam, the former Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, who we had a chance to visit with a few weeks ago before she was former. She was active at the time, asking for privacy in this time as stories have come to life that her husband was living a dual life. And in his second life, the one that she allegedly did not know about, he's a gay cross-dresser. Isn't that that's
the gist of it?
The crux of the story, right? That's the gist of it?
Yeah, I think so. You nailed that one.
I will give you a little bit of a rundown on April Fools later this morning, but William Harvey was born on this day in 1578. Had kind of a important discovery. I guess somebody would have figured it out eventually had he not. He was an English physician, doctor if you prefer, and an anatomist who discovered the circulation of blood, a foundational figure in modern medicine. Turned out that discovery mattered, and circulation of blood, fairly important. Kind of makes the body work.
Yeah, up to that point, they just thought you were just full of blood. They didn't know it did anything. It was just like
it was in there, and if you cut, you bled, but not really sure what it does on the inside. It tends to move around a little bit. Otto von Bismarck was born in 1815, the Prussian statesman and first chancellor of the German Empire. He was known as the Iron Chancellor for unifying Germany through diplomacy and warfare. Tough guy, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I think basically the whole World War I was just a battle of the mustaches, depending on where you were from. If you were England, you had the little nice trimmed ones. If you were the Eastern Europeans, they had the little turned up The French had the walrus-looking ones. I mean,
did Otto have?
No,
one
they
of
all
the,
did. Yeah, they all had.
Did he have the lip duster?
Yeah, they had the ones that turned. The Germans and the Prussians and all them had the turned up ones. They.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's how you kind of knew on the battlefield who was your people amongst the colors. I'm serious. That's a true story. The Battle of the Mustaches, man.
Debbie Reynolds was born in 1932, the American actress and singer famous for her roles in Singin' in the Rain, the unsinkable Molly Brown, and as the mother of Carrie Fisher. Susan Boyle was born on this day in 1961, the Scottish singer who became a global sensation after her stunning Britain's Got Talent audition with I Dreamed a Dream from Les Miserables. She turns 65 today. Maybe you have watched that audition somewhere along the way. She and Simon Cowell with some interaction on stage. Kind of a frumpy lady that came on in a bit of a frumpy dress, and she was a little pithy with Simon Cowell, and then she started singing, and everybody's mouth dropped. Randy Orton was born in 1980, the American professional wrestler and actor, multiple-time world champion in WWE. Logan Paul, the American YouTuber, influencer, and wrestler, is 31 today. We're back with you right after this. Just getting started. Mornings with Richard Cross on the first day of the month of April. Thanks for joining us. MRC presented by Community Bank.
Nobody is just trying real hard to adjust.
Good morning from the Venable.
It's time to get real.
Keeping it real
It's time for you to get real with it.
and keeping it Mississippi. Your voice for statewide and national politics.
Yes!
Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Say you're sorry once again. You want me to take you back once more. You say you need a helping hand, but that's what you told me once before.
One more birthday from this day. Abraham Maslow, born in 1908, the American psychologist. He created what has been referred to as Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Number one being the physiological needs, just basic survival like air, food, water, sleep, clothing, and shelter. After that, security and stability, safety needs, personal safety, financial security, health, and well-being. The third in the hierarchy of needs, love and belonging, including friendships, intimacy, family, and connection. Then you have esteem needs, respect and value, the confidence, self-respect, and respect from others, and status that we seek in life. Finally, self-actualization, reaching one's full potential, creativity, and self-fulfillment.
Basically a marriage counselor, huh?
Something like that.
I think that hits all the points they bring at you.
He kind of hit the high notes, didn't he?
That's right.
Yeah. Today in 527, Justinian I became the co-emperor. Byzantine Emperor Justin I named his nephew Justinian as co-ruler and successor, setting the stage for one of the most influential reigns in Byzantine history, including major legal reforms and architectural achievements like the Hagia Sophia.
It's a beaut.
It is a beaut. I needed to be reminded of what it looked like last night. Googled that, and as you said, it's a beaut. 1748, the ruins of Pompeii were rediscovered. Spanish military engineer Roque Joaquin de Alcubierre.
Excellent.
I mean, who knows?
Nailed it.
Uncovered the buried Roman city of Pompeii, preserved by the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 AD, leading to one of the most important archaeological sites in the world. I think I'd like to rediscover something.
Yeah. I mean, you think about
Or reinvent something.
Well, but the ruins of Pompeii, though, just, the story behind that, the volcano blowing up, and, it had to be smoking for a while, but covering a whole town, and people, frozen in time as they dug them up, and, wine bottles or whatever they had then. I think they were like casks and stuff just sitting right where they were. Well, imagine how quickly something like that must have had to overtake the area for something like that to just be frozen in time.
Much ash.
Yeah, I mean, just immediate almost.
Ooh. In 1865, you had the Battle of Five Forks during the Civil War. Union forces under Philip Sheridan decisively defeated Confederate troops led by George Pickett, cutting off the Army of Northern Virginia's last major supply line that hastened the end of the American Civil War. In 1918, you had the founding of the Royal Air Force, the British Royal Air Force, officially created by merging the Royal Flying Corps and the Royal Naval Air Service, becoming the world's first independent air force. That was during World War I. In 1933, the Nazi boycott of Jewish businesses was one of the early escalations of anti-Semitic policies in Germany. The Nazis organized a nationwide boycott of Jewish-owned shops and businesses, marking a dark turning point toward what ultimately became the Holocaust. In 1945, the Battle of Okinawa begins, U.S. forces launching the invasion of the Japanese island of Okinawa in the final major Pacific campaign of World War II. And it was rough. One of the bloodiest battles of the war. It lasted nearly 3 months. And it set the stage for Karate Kid 2.
Thank you. I didn't want to break in on you there, but we wouldn't have Miyagi without that.
Sato!
My
brother Sato.
I love Sato. He's sitting there hammering on that basic log, with a bare hand while he's in does it with his suit on. Sato.
Miyagi, I can't move. Be still, Sato.
He had the Steven Seagal type of karate, I think. Sato didn't have to move much.
The Aleutian Islands earthquake and the Hawaii tsunami happened on this day in 1946. Powerful undersea quake that triggered a devastating tsunami, killed over 150 people in Hawaii, and it led to the creation of the Pacific Tsunami Warning System. In 1976, a fruit company was founded. Turned out to be a good investment for Forrest Gump. Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, and Ronald Wayne officially founded Apple Computer. It later became Apple Inc., in a garage, of course, in California, launching a company that would revolutionize personal computing, smartphones, and consumer technology.
Well, I mean, you got to give Lieutenant Dane the cred for picking the fruit company. But yeah, Forrest did well off that investment.
He did. 25 years ago, in 2001, the Netherlands legalized same-sex marriage. They became the first country in the world to allow same-sex couples to marry. It was a landmark moment for the LGBTQ plus rights conversation. Although I don't know if it was LGBTQ plus at the time. I think it was just, never mind.
I don't know if the Q and the plus were on there.
Yeah, I don't think so. And, of course, today, April Fool's Day, long tradition of pranks and hoaxes dating back centuries. If you'd like more details on that, stick with us. I'll give it to you coming up a little bit later this morning. News headlines. The largest wildfire in Carroll County history is almost completely under control. Yesterday, officials with the Mississippi Forestry Commission said that the blaze, which has been named the Big Hungry Fire, 90% contained, and that air support has now wrapped up. Ground crews continuing to battle the fire. Crews have moved into the mop-up phase. They're currently patrolling the perimeter to extinguish hot spots and ensure that there are no flare-ups. A little more than 4,200 acres have burned as a result of the fire. It now stands as the second largest fire in Mississippi history, surpassed only by the Shoot House fire near Petal back in 2025. That one spanned more than 6,000 acres. C-Spire text line 601-879-4395. Good morning, gentlemen. Great day to y'all. Everything going to be all right this morning. Indeed, Kelly. Good morning to you. Amanda says, so it's the Danes' fault.
Yeah, well, we know where we can find Byron Nome. If you're looking for an interview today. At the chicken and waffle shop over there.
Somebody on the C Spire text line says that there was one thing that was missing in Maslow's hierarchy. He goes, I think the doctor left one important need off the list, the number one need, that for a relationship with God and his son, Jesus. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate you adding that this morning. The 19-year-old accused of setting Mississippi's oldest synagogue on fire now wants to delay his trial. Stephen Spencer Pittman, the alleged Beth Israel congregation arsonist. Do we still say alleged in that? We have video of him setting the fire. I guess the charges are alleged. He's requested that a federal court in Jackson hold his trial at a later date so that his legal counsel can have additional time to review discovery materials in his case and confer with him about the charges that he's facing. He's currently scheduled to appear in court on the 6th of April. The defendant requests that the trial date be moved on the grounds that the defense counsel needs additional time to review discovery materials, meet with the defendant, and investigate the alleged charges. The AUSA attorney, Matthew Allen, has been contacted and has no objection to the motion to delay the trial. You may remember that Pittman, who is a Madison native, pleaded not guilty to federal charges linked to his alleged role in setting the synagogue ablaze on the 10th of January. The Department of Justice initially charged him with arson, later elevating the charge to include a civil rights offense. Also, there is a state charge, first-degree arson with a hate crime enhancement. Delaying the inevitable, but so be it. Jackson Mayor John Horn, a little frustrated after state lawmakers approved a plan to create a new water authority to oversee the city's water and sewer systems without giving Jackson majority control of the board. The argument continues to be, the assets are ours. We should be the ones making the decisions on how the assets are deployed and how we fix this problem. Some would say the decades of neglect were your chance to fix the problem. Horn and his administration would argue that, yeah, but that was a different leadership group. Horn said Jackson should not be asked to carry the greatest risk without having the authority to govern the assets it owns. We will continue to work with our city leaders, state and federal officials, and other partners toward a solution that is fair, workable, and centered on accountability. Jackson should be able to govern its own resources. To which I say, Jackson should be able to govern its own resources, and yet it didn't. We're back with you after this.
From theseabrook.com.
Digital.com.
Breaking news to bold opinions. Richard dives into the stories shaping Mississippi and the nation. Now back to Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Mama's gonna wash all the way. She thinks mercy's overrated.
Good morning. It is Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi. The Babylon Bee is kind of like April Fools every single day. They came with this one, Trump Presidential Library to feature reflecting pool of liberal tears. I mean, I don't think that's true.
I wouldn't put it past him, though.
Yeah. It's salt water.
You have some saltwater fish in there, like a manta ray or something.
Yeah.
Great white.
A couple of other things, news items. This happened on Friday of last week in Oxford. A big white steel beam sitting on sawhorses with finger paint or handprints all over it. It marked the future of the University of Mississippi's Early Learning and Evaluation Center, leaving prints on a beam during that event on Friday for the nearly $40 million project that's slated to open in early 2027. The center will be operated by the Ole Miss School of Education and will house the university's nationally accredited preschool, the Willie Price Lab School. It will also allow more children to receive developmental and auditory evaluations, increasing opportunities for early intervention services for those with learning disabilities or autism. Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann was on hand for the ceremony. He said, "It is my hope that Mississippi will be a national leader in serving youth with special needs, and this work is a key part of that vision." It's a two-story, nearly 52,000 square foot facility being funded by a combination of state and federal funds, with the university raising and investing more than $21 million into the project, $10 million coming from the state legislature, and another $1.5 million from the U.S. Department of Education. I actually went to that ceremony on Friday, and it was really cool. They had a bunch of children from Willie Price that were out there in hard hats, and they had done the different color handprints on the beam with, finger paints, hand paint, however you want to describe that. Chancellor Boyce spoke, Lieutenant Governor Hosemann spoke as well, and the Dean of the School of Education did also. Governor Hosemann was outlining some of the autism rates in the United States that have dropped in the negative precipitously over the last decade, from 1 in 150 children to 1 in 75 to now 1 in about 35 children with an autism diagnosis. And not only are they creating a space where they are going to give the children the care that they need, they are also educating and teaching teachers how to deal with children that have special educational needs. And it was a very, you have lots of ribbon cuttings and groundbreakings and beam signings, ceremonial stuff, and that's all well and good, but it was a very upbeat, fun presentation. I think the kids being there really helped that, but good things happening. I started to say on the Ole Miss campus. That's actually in the old Baptist Hospital on South Lamar. It's a building that the university has bought and is using, and kind of leveraging that space. So really good stuff there. The international stock markets had a big jump overnight after U.S. stocks soared yesterday to their best day since last spring on renewed hopes that the Iran war could be coming to an end soon. Yesterday afternoon, Donald Trump said that he foresaw 2 to 3 more weeks of the American campaign there. South Korea was up 5%. The Nikkei in Tokyo was up 3.5%. The Australian S&P was up 2% early. And we will see how that goes. The White House has announced that President Trump will address the nation tonight with updates on the Iran war and called it an important update. All of this after yesterday morning, via Truth Social, Trump told the rest of the world, including the U.S. allies, go get your own oil. Yeah, that's what he said about the Strait of Hormuz. Time for your morning sports update, brought to you by Pearl River Resort. Find them online at pearlriverresort.com. Pearl Resort is your home for family fun, casino thrills, and live entertainment. Tiger Woods made an announcement yesterday. I don't guess we actually talked about Tiger Woods' terrible, horrible, no good, very bad end of last week. Stepping away, I guess just from public life, period. Hasn't really been playing golf. To seek treatment. He announced this 4 days after his vehicle crashed in Florida and he was arrested on suspicion of driving under the influence. For the second consecutive year, he will miss the Masters, which begins a week from tomorrow in Augusta, Georgia. Woods pleaded not guilty in his driving under the influence case in Florida, hours after a sheriff's report said deputies found 2 pain pills in his pocket and he showed signs of impairment after his SUV clipped a trailer and rolled over on its side. The online court docket for Martin County showed Woods enter a written plea of not guilty, and he planned to waive his arraignment hearing on April 23rd. Has demanded a jury trial. It's the second time that Woods has taken a leave following a car crash. You may remember that fateful day in 2009 after his SUV plowed into a fire hydrant and a tree outside his home near Orlando. Wasn't it his then wife Elin came out and was like beating on the car with a 5-iron too?
Yeah, had the 5-iron. They need to get that dude some driver's ed. I mean,
yeah. Well, I'm afraid that driver's ed is not the issue.
Yeah, but they teach you in that not to drive impaired and all that.
Tiger Woods said that he was taking a leave of absence to work on being a better person at the time. That lasted 4 months, and then he returned to play in the Masters. Kind of the universal reaction on this, outside of the memes that you see on social media, which, sorry, they came at Tiger's expense, but they have been hilarious. A lot of them out there. Very clear, and it's not alcohol related. I don't know what his alcohol consumption is like, but he blew a breathalyzer and blew 000s, but very clearly was impaired. And a sad story for one of, if not the greatest golfer to ever live. You had midweek baseball last night and yesterday morning and afternoon in the case of Ole Miss. The Rebels played their annual school day game with thousands and thousands of area school children at the ballpark. It is loud. It was loud. It's always loud. And Ole Miss got a win. They hosted Little Rock, trailed early in that ball game, but came back and won it 7-4, despite being out-hit 13-8 by the Trojans of Little Rock. Ole Miss now 20-10 on the year. Mississippi State, a 12-zip win over Grambling last night. Bulldogs moved to 25-4 on the season, 12 runs, 9 hits, and an error for the Bulldogs last night. Southern Miss had the dreaded long team meeting after the game last night. Usually that doesn't happen after a win, and that was the case last night in Hattiesburg. Southeastern Louisiana, who is now 17-12 on the year, rolled in and beat Southern Miss 5-1. Golden Eagles fell to 21-8 on the season. They are 5-4 in the Sun Belt Conference. All three of those teams back at it in conference play this weekend. Most of those series happening Thursday, Friday, Saturday. As years ago, college baseball made a good decision. There are a few series that are still Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but most of them have gone to Thursday, Friday, Saturday so that everybody can be home with family and friends for Easter. Ilias Commerdine has agreed to return to Ole Miss for next season. The France native set to be part of head coach Chris Beard's 26-27 squad after what was a somewhat disappointing year in 25-26 for Commerdine. He's listed as a senior. He previously has been granted a waiver to spend one more season at the collegiate level. Though he said after losing to Arkansas in the SEC tournament, he was weighing his options. He is the first to officially announce that he is committed to come back and play for Ole Miss. He is a former French professional player. Seemed to kind of pick it up a bit down the stretch. And finally, the Mississippi Sports Hall of Fame has announced the finalists for the top male and female college basketball players in the state for this past season. Starting with the Howell Trophy, the most prolific basketball player on the men's side, a pair of Mississippians and a New Yorker are up for the honor. Mississippi State's Josh Hubbard, a Madison native, headlines the group, trying to earn the trophy for a third straight year. He's joined by Jackson State's hometown hero, Deshaun Ruffin, and New York native Tylik Weeks from Southern Miss. Those are the three finalists on the men's side. Deshaun Ruffin was the SWAC Player of the Year. On the women's side, the Gillum Trophy, represented by Ohio State transfer Cody McMahon that plays for Ole Miss, Mississippi State's Madison Francis, and Southern Miss's Jakayla Johnson. That is your sports update brought to you by Pearl River Resort.
Good morning from the Venable.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
On with the show.
Is back.
Holy smokes.
On Super Talk, Mississippi.
Time for your Mississippi Lottery update. It's brought to you by the Mississippi Lottery online at mslottery.com. That's mslottery.com. Told you yesterday we've had a pair consecutive $50,000 winners on Powerball drawings. Matching 4 white balls plus the Powerball to win $50,000. That is really cool. It's not quite as cool as if you won the actual Powerball, which is up to $194 million for tonight's drawing, with an estimated $87.1 million for the cash value. Monday night's numbers were 7, 11, 31, 41, 57 with a Powerball of 20. They will re-rack them for tonight's drawing coming up in a bit. No jackpot winner last night in Mega Millions. Friday's drawing is worth $90 million in the jackpot. Be sure to check out the website, mslottery.com, and also grab the Mississippi Lottery app for your smartphone. You can check your numbers there and also play the, what do they call them? Like the run it back games, the second time drawings. Second chance. Second chance drawings. $10 scratch off. Triple Red Sevens. A Fayette, Alabama man won $25,000 on a ticket from Sprint Mart in Hamilton. We thank you for your contribution to the state of Mississippi as an Alabama resident. MSLottery.com, that is the website. So we're making a run at the moon again. Artemis 2 scheduled to launch today from Cape Canaveral, humanity's first flight to the moon since 1972. Don't you love how when we talk about space exploration, we roll out words like mankind and humanity? One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. In a throwback to Apollo, NASA's Artemis 2 mission will send 4 astronauts on a lunar fly-around. I'm not sure. Are you getting the short end of the stick as an astronaut if you're going to the moon, but you don't actually get to walk on the moon? They're going to hurtle several thousand miles beyond the moon, make a U-turn, and then come straight back. No circling around the moon, no stopping for a moonwalk, just a quick out and back. It's going to last less than 10 days. NASA promises more boot prints in the gray lunar dust, but not for a couple of, they're going to run a couple of practice missions first. The upcoming test flight by Artemis astronauts Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Koch, and Jeremy Hansen is the first step in settling the moon this time around. This is where Lance makes a joke about a movie set, a backlot in Hollywood.
Don't forget Stanley. Kubrick's got to be there.
Well, yeah. NASA's new space launch system rocket, or the SLS, stands 322 feet tall. That is taller than a football field. Shorter than the Apollo program's Saturn V rocket, but more powerful at liftoff thanks to a pair of strap-on boosters. This line worries me, but I'm going to trust the good people at NASA and SpaceX that they've gotten this right. But if I were one of those 4, I would be concerned by this line in the story. Made of salvaged space shuttle engines and other parts.
That's what you want to hear, yeah.
I think I would prefer made of brand spanking new parts.
Yeah.
Sure to not go wrong. The SLS uses the same fuel, liquid hydrogen, that the shuttles did. Hydrogen leaks repeatedly grounded the shuttles, as well as the first SLS rocket test without astronauts aboard in 2022. More than 3 years later, Artemis 2 suffered the same hydrogen leaks during a February fueling practice run, missing the first launch window. A repeat of helium flow issues bumped the mission into April. But apparently, they got all that figured out. Certainly that is the hope. So after liftoff, the astronauts will spend the first 25 hours circling Earth in a high, lopsided orbit. They're going to have to keep their tray tables in the upright position and their seatbelts fastened for the entirety of that 25 hours, I think. You think they'll buy one of those little cushy neck roll things that you take on a plane that never really actually work and aren't that comfortable?
Yes, you got to be pretty limber for those to work, I think.
How about this? They'll use the separated upper stage as a target, steering their Orion capsule around it as docking practice for future moonshots. Instead of fancy rangefinders, they'll rely on their eyes to judge the gap, venturing no closer than 33 feet to the stage. Are we confident in depth perception in space?
Man, that's some trust there.
Crew captain said sometimes simple stuff is the best. If all goes as planned, Orion's main engine will hurl the crew to the moon some 244,000 miles away. This free return trajectory made famous in Apollo 13 relies on the moon and Earth's.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
Mornings with Richard Cross. Super Talk, Mississippi.
Gonna get fired if I don't get some sleep. My long lost buddies say I'm getting in too deep, but I like it, I love it, I want some more of it. I try so hard, I can't rise above it. Don't know what it is about that little gal's loving, but I like it, I love it.
Welcome again. It is Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi. I'm Richard. Glad to be with you. Lance in the studio, our network studios, control center in Jackson.
Palatial.
Feels like you could fly a space shuttle from where you sit.
With all the controls I have at my disposal, I think I could,
Yeah.
Just don't know
Mornings
where
is
the
presented
eject
by
button.
Community Bank. We're more than just a place to manage your money. We're your neighbors, your partners, and your trusted financial advisors. For decades, we've been rooted in our community, helping families, small businesses, and individuals, easy for me to say, achieve their dreams. Whether it's opening your first savings account, planning for a brighter future, or growing your business, we're here every step of the way. We're dedicated to our customers, committed to your success, and always here when you need us. Community Bank, rooted in our community. Member FDIC. So with Artemis 2 and this moonshot mission, takeoff, launch, is at Cape Canaveral. The two side boosters at the bottom of the rocket will peel away 2 minutes into flight. And then the core stage will separate from the capsule 8 minutes into flight. At that point, Orion is deploying its solar arrays to generate power for the mission. So this thing is going to launch from Cape Canaveral, get up in the air, and then it's going to make a turn to the right, heading east-northeast. I think it's going to be sure, though, to stay west of Europe because we don't have permission to fly over French airspace. Kidding, sort of.
Drop a bunch of croissants and baguettes. I think we'll be all right.
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to loop around the North Pole and then circle around the Earth twice. And that's just to work out any kinks. They want to make sure that everything is in good working order before they slingshot themselves around the southern hemisphere after a second orbit of the Earth and then head toward the moon. At that point, days 2, 3, 4, and 5 of the mission, Orion's main engine will ignite to propel the capsule out of Earth's orbit to the moon, some 244,000 miles away. On day 6, Orion will reach its farthest point from Earth, sailing 5,000 miles beyond the moon. Dark side of the moon. Astronauts will capture the flyby with cameras and smartphones. I mean, what does that say about Apple? We got to the point, just like, hey, did you bring your cell phone? Get a video. Quality will be great. After the rounding the moon, they're going to head home. So as soon as they come around the dark side of the moon, they will begin their return. They will take advantage of the moon and Earth's gravity whipping around the moon to head home in what's known as a free return trajectory. Upon re-entry, the service module separates from the capsule, which re-enters Earth's atmosphere, generating temperatures of 3,000 degrees. And then they will parachute into the Pacific after their mission. If you ever wonder why we romanticize space travel and why we can not think about shuttles and rockets for days, weeks, months, years, decades, but then the first time we hear about a big space launch, we're like, oh, man. Just listen to what I just read to you. It leaves you, your jaw hanging when you think about everything that has to go right for this to work. We take for granted that when we press the button or turn the key, our car is going to crank. We take for granted that we get on an airplane in Memphis or Jackson or Gulfport, headed for Dallas or Charlotte or Atlanta or wherever, that pilot's just going to lift off and we're going to cruise through the air for an hour and we're going to touch down and we're going to be where we need to be. You can't take anything for granted when you're talking about getting on a rocket, orbiting the Earth twice, and slingshotting your way to the moon, and then relying on gravitational forces to throw you back toward Earth, and then trusting that there won't be any sharks circling in the Pacific when you parachute in at the end. I assume, by the way, that is the capsule will parachute into the ocean, not they're going to like eject and strap on parachutes themselves, right?
And that would be cool. That guy, when Baumgartner did that years ago for Red Bull.
Yeah. Well, you just hope it doesn't happen like it did for Goose.
Yeah. I want to hit that's what I was saying here with all my controls. I don't yet know which the eject button is yet. I'm a little scared to push some of these buttons.
It's the red button. Don't press it.
There are a bunch of them.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for joining us this morning. Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank. This hour brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough, and if you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll, you're not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They can provide a full range of employer services plus a custom plan that fits you. Give them a call today, 601-206-7966, or go to mwgemployerservices.com. I can't help but think that there's a parent who's taking a kid to school this morning, and said child, little Johnny, little Sally, just using those names off the top of my head, is listening going, what's he talking about? Because normally wouldn't care what we're talking about. If you're on your way to, third grade or fifth grade or whatever, you're like, can we not listen to music? Mom, Dad? And maybe her, like, they're going to do what? Yeah. They're going to climb into a rocket, shoot off into the sky, circle around the Earth 2 times, and then like something that you would do in a playroom. You know how a slingshot works? You pull that thing back, pull it back, let it go, and then zoom! That's what gravity is going to do with the space shuttle as it, at the perfect time, hits the ignition button on another engine that then is going to send it hurtling through the Earth's atmosphere into outer space.
So you got to know your math to do that stuff, kids.
Yeah.
Those calculations cannot be off.
And then when they get to space, it's like they're tourists. Hey, look out the window. See the moon out there? Everybody take a picture. Can we get a selfie? And then they're going to loop around. They're going to come back home. It's a 10-day road trip. And it is awe-inspiring. Yesterday, President Trump said that the United States would be leaving Iran in 2 to 3 weeks. Addressing reporters in the Oval Office, he said that the United States has eliminated Iran's nuclear threat and, quote, it will take them 15 to 20 years to rebuild what we've done to them. Though my assumption is in the aftermath of the war, we'd like to have some say in them actually being able to rebuild over the course of 15 or 20 years. Buildings, infrastructure, yes. Nuclear material, preferably not. Also yesterday, Pete Hegseth said that the coming days of the conflict would be decisive and that the number of projectiles launched by Iran in the past 24 hours represented the lowest during the war. Hegseth was speaking at a joint press conference alongside General Dan Cain, Dan Raisin Cain if you prefer. He's the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Comments came shortly after President Trump lashed out on social media at our allies, pushing them to launch their own operations to wrest control of the Strait of Hormuz from Iran. The aircraft carrier USS George H.W. Bush and its accompanying warships are deploying to the Middle East, joining 2 other U.S. carrier strike groups that are in the region. Trump said gas prices are going to go down when he ends the war. It is a little hard to make the idea that we are done in 2 to 3 weeks dovetail with thousands of additional U.S. troops heading to the Middle East. 6,000 sailors headed over in that strike group, and thousands of soldiers from the 82nd Airborne have begun arriving in the Middle East as well. Again, the president will address the country tonight with an update on the war in Iran, an update that he calls very important. Senator Daniel Sparks will join us coming up next. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
From the Venable Glass Traffic Center.
With Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi.
And I'm tired of taking blame when I ain't done nothing wrong. I'm tired of other people trying to take what's mine. And I'm tired of y'all playing dress up and trying to sing them old country songs.
Couple of trips for you to catch SuperTalk Mississippi on the road. Couple of opportunities, I should say. Middays with Gerard Gibbert will be at the Trade Mart in Jackson today for the Skills USA competition. This competition features students who compete in different skill-based areas, including welding, carpentry, and masonry. The event is hosted by Build Mississippi. For more info, go to buildmississippi.com. Also, next Wednesday, Sports Talk Mississippi will be live at Scruggs Farm, Lawn, and Garden in Saltillo for their Drive Green Spring Sales event. Check out their green savings on John Deere zero-turn mowers, 0% for 36 months, Gators with 1.9 for 39 months, and compact tractors 0% for 72 months, along with other great deals. Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank, and I am happy to welcome in the senator from District 5. That is Daniel Sparks. He represents parts of Itawamba, Prentiss, and Tishomingo counties. He is chair of the Economic and Workforce Development Committees, vice chair of Judd B as well. Unrelated to the legislature, were you as enthralled with space shuttles and space travel as a kid as so many others seem to have been?
I don't understand how you couldn't be. It's amazing. Everybody looks at what do they want to be, and astronaut ranks pretty high. So
yeah, and then you learn the job responsibilities that go with it. You're like, Maybe a fireman's not such a bad thing to want to be, or the professional ball player. Glad to have you along. We are nearing the end of this legislative session, or at least we think we're nearing the end of this legislative session. It has been a year interesting. I don't know if that's the right way to describe it. Outside looking in, and I know this is not actually the case on the inside with the day-to-day that all of you are going through, but it felt like this session started with a bang, with all of the conversation about school choice. And then that kind of played out, and it felt like there was a lull for a little while. And then at the end, it's just been this sprint to the finish with bills flying left and right and seemingly getting there on the budget. What has it been like on the inside?
I think that's probably a pretty good explanation of what it's felt like on the inside, because, people work in the off session, the legislators, and you're meeting with your people and you're, getting ideas, and you come down and everybody's dropping their bills. And the first couple of weeks, generally those bills are getting finalized, crafted, and drafted. So the first people out with dropping bills are the ones that get all the attention on the front end. And if they don't make it, and then even the bills that get dropped later in the session don't make it, then we end up, after we've swapped bills, you begin to see the insertion period where everybody wants to insert their idea into another bill, and there's procedural rules of whether the subject matter you're sticking in is actually germane to the bill, and there's points of order, and it sounds like a lot of civil procedure, and it kind of is. But then all of a sudden you look up and poof, your idea is still alive, or your idea is dead. And so it is that way. And then, of course, when the appropriators go to work and actually have to start finalizing budgets, once again, they've worked all year. They've met in the off season with agency heads and most every agency out there, and they come and they make their presentation to the Legislative Budget Office, and there's a recommendation. And then we look at the actual money. Everybody's got recommendations. And usually, Richard, I know this will come to a shock, everybody wants more money for their agency each year. And so ultimately, the appropriators have to say, we have a fixed amount of money, and we have to run a balanced budget in the state of Mississippi. And so therefore, they have to make the really hard decisions.
If the rules were different, if yes meant yes and no meant no, and you didn't have the ability to, a bill gets killed, well, let's just strip the language out of another bill that's not dead yet, and we'll stick it in this, and we'll call it something else, and then we might have to do that again. And, well, there's always conference committee. If it was just straightforward and yes had to be yes and no had to be no, would that change the way the legislature operates?
I think it would, and the process is the process, and it's extremely frustrating and rewarding at the same time, because once you learn how those rules work, you can use them to their advantage. And the big thing for me, I try to do a lot of single subject bills. I believe the general public wants single subject bills, vote up or down. I mean, the things that go on in D.C. with these omnibus bills, and then somebody passes a bill, and all of a sudden, Rand Paul points out that there's something about funding for friendly ducks in Guatemala or something in the bill. And he's right, because it gets stuck in there. So the last thing we want to do is replicate that in the state of Mississippi, but oftentimes we do. But I had, and my colleagues were very gracious to me on the Senate side, I had 20 bills that passed the Senate that went to the House. I mean, literally, most of them had 52-0 votes. And some of them were agency requests, some of them were ideas of my own, some of them clearly revolved around the retirement system. And so you don't have half a bill when you pass it. Now, that doesn't mean that the House didn't also send me similar subject matters, and we passed some of those that maybe I had the same subject matter, because someone who's really pushing an issue will try to get a sponsor on both ends. So that part is fine. But, yeah, I think
kind of double their odds.
That's right. I think if people voted up or down, number one, there's an accountability factor that we have. You're not squishy on the issue. You're literally having to say, I'm taking this vote, and the vote's going out, and this is the one subject matter. But that's not the way it ends up, particularly at the end of session, because you do see some hodgepodge, Frankenstein-looking things put together. And, at the end of the day, you're going to try to make a good vote on a decision for the policy that you believe, most suits your district as well as, your principles.
If I'm not mistaken, and I may be, your example of a federal omnibus bill with funding Happy Ducks in Guatemala kind of happened to you yesterday, if I remember correctly. You stepped to the lectern and said that you disagreed with at least part of the bill fairly vehemently, but ultimately were encouraging others to vote for it because it involved funding of the Department of Human Services. Can you fill in the gaps there?
When you get to conference, and that's when we can't agree on a bill, they assign 3 members from the House and 3 members for the Senate to get together in conference and hammer out final language. And I was on, several conference reports, as many other legislators are, and generally you sign those. And if the chairman signs it, you feel pretty good about it. But if it's something that you just don't want to sign, it's uncommon. But I chose not to sign the conference report. And people look at those things and think, oh, well, you're against this.
On which bill?
On the Department of Human Services. It was their repealer. It was what kept them alive.
Okay.
I put an amendment in it. So I did the very thing we're talking about. My concern is the SNAP error rate. The One Big Beautiful Bill is holding accountability, which I'm all for the billions and billions of federal dollars, trillions that flow out to the states. What we've seen in Minnesota, what we've seen in Mississippi on fraud, waste, and abuse, they're being more holding us more accountable, as they should. So the error rate issue is a new issue coming out of the federal legislation, and Mississippi's hamstrung because we're the only state in the nation that uses a change reporting model on these SNAP error rates, on benefits, eligibility, reauthorization. And, my intention was to change that.
All right, I need to interrupt you there because sure. I think, point of order here, we need to talk about what those change rates are. I think there are lots of people that maybe have no idea what that actually means.
Sure. It means Mississippi adopted in an attempt to be more accountable a decade ago. We said, hey, basically, if anything changes in your economic situation, you have 10 days to let the department know so they can determine if you're still eligible. It was a great concept, but it's not been effective. And prior to its implementation, our error rate, because that error is based on did you meet the qualifications to be eligible, assets, income, work requirements, all these different things, which are good things. But we're the only state in the nation doing it. And when we changed in 2019, we've never been below the error rate since then, and we were never above it before we changed. So since it's a $128 million potential loss to the state of Mississippi, I thought the simple thing to do was to go to the same metric every other state's using to avoid that, because that'll be basically showing up in January and getting a $128 million bill from the federal government. That's a huge lick. So that was my thought. And I put it.
Now, was this the HOPE Act? Was that from 2017? Is that what kind of led us down this road?
That's correct. It's a portion of that which required the department to forbade them actually from using simplified reporting. But after 7 years of doing that, it's supposed to show cost savings. They give reports on a regular basis. And those reports do not show cost savings. And I can tell you next year's report is liable to show a $128 million deficit that the state will be responsible to repay the federal government in a cost sharing. So that was all that it was meant to do. It's not throwing shade at anybody about the HOPE Act. It was just $128 million.
So the state of Mississippi is potentially going to be on the hook next year for $128 million because we don't do the proper checking to make sure that the people who are receiving federal benefits are actually eligible to receive federal benefits. There's a sliding scale in terms of your percentage error rate, and the higher your error rate, the more expensive it will be for the state. Daniel Sparks is my guest. We're back right after this.
From theseabrook.com.
This segment of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Let's go. Waking up the Magnolia State. Mornings with Richard Cross.
That's what it's here for.
Super Talk, Mississippi.
Glad to be with you this morning, and glad to have Senator Daniel Sparks, who is a relatively new father. I don't know if I've seen you in person to say congratulations on that. It's a game changer, my man.
Thank you. It has been such a blessing. And I'll tell you, he's pushing toward the 3-month mark. And I will say this: I have a wonderful wife, and she is very schedule oriented, and she's got him sleeping through the night. If she could only do the same to me, it would be amazing. But no, it has been such a blessing for our family, and I'm late in life getting to the game, but I can tell you it is amazing, and I'm thankful.
Nothing like a new legislative session starting roughly around the time your son is born. That is outstanding timing, Senator. Good work there. Forgive me for belaboring the point. I feel like sometimes we talk around issues and conversations, and sometimes we, and I'm guilty of this, make an assumption that everybody understands and everybody's kind of on the same page. On this SNAP benefits error rate, what we're saying is right now, in terms of the dollars that are distributed to Mississippians, north of 10% is in error, should not be distributed or should not be distributed the way that it is being done. And the federal government has a penalty system in place where if your error rate is above 6%, you have to start returning money to them. And the higher your error rate goes, the more expensive it gets. And we have an opportunity to fix that and the means to fix that, but are refusing to do so. The legislature has refused to pass a bill that would fix it, knowing that that is going to lead us to a 9-figure penalty a year from now. Is that accurate?
That's pretty accurate. The one thing I would say about the error rate, though, it's not, and I want the listeners to understand, this is not in any way trying to broaden a program or get people into benefits that don't deserve them. This is literally an error that could be up or down. They draw a sample size. It's not that someone didn't earn, or not earn, but didn't qualify for the benefits. It's literally that we use a metric that is so tight that errors tripled from the old metric, and there's been no cost savings shown. There's been no one shown to say, hey, here's people who shouldn't have been on it that are off of it. That's the problem. If it was a diving competition, we're doing a more difficult dive than every other competitor, but we're getting no credit for the difficulty of the dive. So we're literally being scored harder. We're self-reporting. And let me be clear, that error, again, doesn't mean that they didn't qualify. It just means that we were off by some small percentage or some amount. And the fact that we do it every month when everybody else does it every 6 months, the USDA in the past has said, hey, y'all should go to simplified reporting. I mean, there's documented.
So why are we not doing it? Like I guess that's the ultimate question. We have a chance to fix this and avoid $100 million penalty. Why are we not fixing it?
I dropped a bill to fix it. I inserted an amendment into a bill to fix it that was stripped out. All I know is I've done everything with him. I've yelled about it. I went to the well yesterday. I took a point of personal privilege, which I haven't done in 7 years, to simply just, it was an airing of the grievances, I think, to a great degree. I rattled off a list of about 6 things.
The sarcasm was thick, too.
Yes.
It was a thing of beauty if you're, I don't know, a Seinfeld fan or...
It hurts.
That's your form of humor.
Yeah, when I look at $128 million, and I'm very thankful that it appears that UMMC is going to get $100 million to build the cancer center that is going to be a legacy item for everyone, and it's going to help Mississippians. But when I see $128 million being pushed into a pile and set on fire, I think of all the things that we could do with that money. Not only is it malfeasance to the taxpayers of the state of Mississippi, it is something that just literally I see the good that can be done. And let me be clear, that's not $128 million one time. That'll be annually. If you're over 6%, there's a 5, 10, and 15% penalty rate. And, the frustrating thing for me, I've had some people pat me on the back and say, hey, we're working real hard on this. We're probably going to get it down to maybe even $40 million. I'm not impressed.
I'm sorry for interrupting here. I don't think, and I'm going to take the blame for this, at least in part. We have not discussed this enough. If you are a tax-paying citizen in the state of Mississippi, when you hear this, that there is a way to fix this problem, and the legislature not Senator Sparks, he's dropped a couple of bills about it, is refusing to fix it. You should be so damn mad that you cannot see straight. That the legislature is choosing to take $100 million of your money and set it on fire.
I've not been more frustrated by anything since I've been there. And, you know, when we look at the budget and we talk about how tight it is, and it is, you can go through the budget and I could find a lot of things that I would disagree with funding. This is the one that it's all federal money. It's over $800 million that flows through the SNAP program that goes to Mississippians. We'll still have to pay the benefits because the federal government dictates who's eligible and who's not eligible. We will have a cost-sharing penalty. So instead of the federal government paying the entire $800 million, I think it was $806 million last year, we will get to take out our calculator and compute either a 5, 10, or 15% error, which currently we're in the 15% error rate group, penalty group, because our error rate was 10.69. Yeah, it's really befuddling, and it led me yesterday to do something I hadn't done in 7 years, is just almost apologize to my colleagues, thank them for trying to help us get across the finish line. I've been talking about this since August, September, October, to agencies, to anybody that wanted to listen. And I'm like you, I kind of thought everybody's hair would be on fire about it, and just wasn't a priority, or didn't make it. Let me put it that way. It did not make it.
I have been asking repeatedly about CapEx funds and expenditures, and specifically about the cancer center at UMMC, and everybody's kind of smiled and said, yeah, I think it's going to be good. I know that you were the first person who has publicly said, at least on this program, that $100 million is going to be the number. That is a staggering amount of money, and as frustrated as I am with the money that we're talking about just burning, I'm equally as excited that the legislature stepped up in the way they did. The lieutenant governor, the speaker of the House, everybody on the same page to, we think, funneled that amount of money to UMMC for this. I think you called it a legacy project for UMMC a second ago, and I think that's a great way to describe it.
Yeah, I think so. The outcomes, as many of your viewers already know, in Mississippi, we have the worst cancer outcomes in the country. And if you're a black male living in the Delta, you have the worst cancer outcomes in the known world. And that's a tragedy. And by the way, UMMC didn't just show up with their hand out saying we need some money. They've already raised $100 or more million toward this project. So you want to talk about skin in the game, they have it. But, you know, on the $128 million, I would say to my legislative colleagues, you know, everybody always at the end of the year wants to talk about a project bill. You want to take projects home to your local districts. That $128 million, if we come back next year and we have a bill from the federal government, there's your project bill. So I think cities and counties should be livid about it. I think legislators should be livid about it because money's getting tight. You know, all these federal funds have been coming down, are gone. The federal government's barreling toward $40 trillion in debt. The accountability piece, and this is the thing I've also said to my colleagues and to agency heads, do you think they'll stop at DHS? Do you think the federal government's just going to say, well, we're just going to have this error rate cost sharing penalty? Oh, no, it's coming to the next agency and the next agency. So my advice would be we better prepare to be accurate. And you ought to want to be right and accurate for the sake of accuracy. But when there's a cost-sharing penalty, it's crazy. But, you know, that is...
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. We spent so much time a year ago talking about PERS and the changes to the state retirement system. You were one of the leaders in that conversation. I think you and others said, hey, we need to get this in place and get it moving. We will continue to look at it, and if there are changes that we need to make, then we will make it. A lot of conversation about the 35-year work requirement before retiring from state government. Ultimately, that's rolled back to 30 years. Do you feel like you landed in a good place on that?
I feel like we landed in a reasonable place. The 35 years, a year ago, was a legislative insertion that was employee friendly. The PERS board had recommended a program that had no term of years, meaning you just get your retirement at 62 to 65, like Social Security. So, but I had several, I would call them listening sessions, or chewing out sessions, which is fine. Either one, I'll take either one. But the big things that came out of it was 30 years would be preferred. We went back from the high 8 in Tier 5 to the high 4 for compensation. But the return to work piece is the piece I've gotten several text messages about. That is a great move, in my opinion, to allow experienced people to come back in a more lucrative manner. And I do think that the pieces we passed for the fundamental program are good. We still need to put money into that system. There's your $128 million again. That seems to be a good place to put it, would be PERS.
You got time to hang with me for a couple more minutes?
Yes, sir. Be proud to.
Senator Daniel Sparks is my guest. He is chair of the Economic and Workforce Development Committee, vice chair of Judiciary B in the Mississippi Senate. We'll take a quick time out. We're back with you. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
From the Venable Glass.
What is it? What's going on?
Mornings with Richard Cross.
It is what it is. Yes, it is.
Super Talk, Mississippi.
Making your way the only way they know how. Yeah.
Sometimes Lance subliminally likes to send a message. I will let you read between the lines there. I'm not even sure it's all that subliminal.
I wasn't trying to be subliminal. That was supposed to be obvious.
Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi, presented by Community Bank. We get a question from JR in Starkville on the C Spire text line. You can be part of the conversation there, 601-879-4395. JR, Senator Sparks says, all this doesn't make sense. Is it real errors or a problem with the reporting system? Going back to the SNAP benefits error rate that we're talking about.
I believe it's a problem with the reporting system and the methodology that we've chosen to use that the other 49 states don't use.
Is it too late to fix it?
I guess from a procedural standpoint, we could hold the bill on a motion to reconsider. We could recommit the bill to the committee from which it came, amend the bill, and pass the bill. But
today?
Yeah, that'd be it. But to do that, risk killing the bill, which would kill DHS, unless both sides were going to agree. Hey, yeah, we'll put this language in there because that's the way the system works. And I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus. I've been talking about this since August, and this is not a mystery. And so it got stripped out. I refused to sign the conference report. I aired my grievances. I told everybody I'm a sore loser. That has been true since I was a child, and it hadn't changed today. I don't like to lose, and I certainly don't like to lose on a common sense matter.
What is for something like this not to go through, that seems to make a lot of common sense, what is the argument against it? Those who are voting against this bill are choosing not to advance this idea of we're not going to fix our error rates, and it's going to cost us $120 million. What is their argument against?
No one has voted against the bill. My bill died in committee without a vote on the other side, and then this was stripped out in a conference report. So nobody has voted against it. As I said earlier in the show.
Oh, it's just inside politics then.
We hadn't had a chance to vote on it, except on the Senate side. We voted twice. But that's where it is. And like I said, I'm not. This is math. These are numbers. This is rule driven, and it's the federal government directing us, and we've chosen not to take advantage of doing what the other 49 states do, and I just I'm struggling with it, yeah, and I'm frustrated, and I probably lashed out at a few folks. So part of that point of personal privilege yesterday was an apology to those that I've probably been a little harsh to. So. Yeah. But it's not a game to me. It matters. The work that we do sometimes is foolish and silly, and and people are frustrated with us, and justifiably so. But to me, it's a big picture issue. The cancer center is a big picture issue. The budget in the future and what tax revenues look like, and the income tax elimination, those are big picture issues. Economic development. But the reason we did the things we did with PERS, big picture, stability of the system, it was about our bond rating. I mean, it goes on and on and on. But there are bills that, it's not all doom and gloom. There's sunshine. There's, a couple bills we got passed that are going to hold people more accountable as it relates to financial fraud and things of that magnitude. So, in my opinion, you got to look at the big picture. Make your programs more efficient, and stop the people who are abusing taxpayer dollars. That'd be a good start.
I had a little bit of I don't know if meltdown's the right word, but a moment kind of in the middle of this session where I just wanted to throw my hands up. And I even asked the question on this show, what's the point in even voting Republican anymore? For those who do so, when you have a majority in the Senate, a supermajority in the House, governor, all of the statewide offices are all Republicans, and it feels like, outside perspective, legislators get down and you have personality differences and different opinions, and they fight among themselves and then don't get anything done. I will say, I feel like the last month has been an extremely productive month at the Capitol here in the state of Mississippi, and I think a lot has gotten done. I'm curious, with a minute and a half until we wrap up here in the 7 o'clock hour, if you had to give a grade to the legislature for this session, A through F, and I'm talking about Senate and House, not individual grades, like the entire Capitol gets a grade. What letter grade would you give?
A C.
Okay.
I think that the members are working hard, and they're working together. And like I said, I've got colleagues on both sides, Senate and House, both sides of the aisle, Democrat, Republican. There's so many people working hard to try to fix things, to try to do things. And just because I disagree with the policy doesn't mean somebody's being nefarious. It may just not be the way I think it ought to be done. The work that goes on behind the scenes amongst the members is they literally are trying and giving of their best. But, procedure, politics, whatever it may be, ultimately, I don't know that I'd ever give us an A. I think the people would think I'd lost my mind. So C's probably gracious.
Yeah. Although I think the good folks at UMMC would give you an A, regardless of what else has happened, if they end up with $100 million toward this project. And, oh, by the way, to the fundraising team internally at UMMC that has gone out and has raised $100 million in private dollars, the $15 million or so that's going to come from the feds on this, this is job well done all the way around. Just got to get it completely across the finish line. Senator Daniel Sparks, I thank you as always for your time. Enjoyed the conversation this morning.
Thank you so much, Richard. Appreciate you always.
We'll talk to you soon. 8 o'clock hour on the way. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi. We're back with you right after this.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Wake up. Yes, do it. Wake up. Come on. All right.
SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Wake up. Found it down, load it up and truck it. Are we gonna do what they say can't be done? We've got a long way to go and a short time to get there. I'm eastbound up, watch on bandit run.
Good to be with you this morning. Thanks for joining us. If you want to be part of the conversation, you may do so on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. Right now at C Spire, new and current customers can get a free phone, watch, and tablet, plus 100 gigs of data for just $90. There's more to see. Visit cspire.com today. Happy to be joined by Don Redman from AAA Mississippi. If you're going to make a cannonball run, or if you're going to be east, down, and bound, it's going to cost you a little bit more than it would have otherwise. A lot of people focused on the price at the pump right now, Don. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. Yeah, certainly. We feel it every time we fill up the tank. We're over $1.10 higher than we were just a month ago, 5 weeks ago. So, we're feeling it, no doubt.
This is, I guess, my experience, and I'm sure others have as well. We went through that stage a decade ago where you went to the gas pump, and if you were empty and you just wanted to fill up your tank, you swiped your credit card or you swiped your debit card, but then the pump shut off before your tank was completely full because it shut off at $100. We're kind of back to that point where it takes a Benjamin Franklin for a lot of people to fill up their gas tank.
Yeah, I mean, let's just say you only fill up once a week. I think most of us fill up maybe once and a half, if you will, a week. But just say you're just filling up once a week. That's now anywhere between $70 to $110 difference than just 5 weeks ago. So that's $110, but anywhere between $70 to $110, depending on your vehicle and how much mileage you get. But that's money that you had disposable income for other things. That's now just going into your tank. Yeah. And it certainly does make a difference. And just when you thought it was safe to go back to the beach in terms of fuel prices, we see this big jump up. But, the market is kind of staying steady right now. But I wouldn't think that we're going to look at these higher prices through the summer. I think that's what we're going to have to deal with.
Well, and you say that's disposable income. For some, that's not disposable income. That's money that they've got to come up with that was supposed to be going to pay another bill or set aside for something else. So the president said yesterday, President Trump said yesterday that 2 to 3 more weeks for United States involvement in Iran, and he believes that once he says the war is over and we are done, that gas prices will come down quickly. I don't think I hear you echoing that sentiment, at least not right this second.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of moving parts, and it's a fool's errand to try to speculate what fuel prices are going to happen while there's still a kinetic war going on, and things could change just as we're speaking now in that region. But most of us are weathered enough to know that when prices do come down, they don't quite go down as fast as they go up. I mean, we've seen instances where the prices went up 10, 15, 20 cents overnight. We're not going to expect those prices to drop like that. And it takes a while for that system to clean itself out, if you will, these higher prices. And we saw this again in 2022 when Russia invaded Ukraine in February. By June, we in Mississippi were paying over $4 a gallon. It took a while for that to build up, and then it's just going to be a while for it to work itself out. I don't think the price will drop immediately, but there's obviously an incentive for service stations to try to give the cheapest prices they can. They want people not only just filling up at their station, but they also want you inside. They want you buying the coffee and the donuts and other things where the markup is much higher than at the pump. And so there will be a race to bring that price up, but they just won't fall as quickly as it went. Sometimes it's because it's a contract. Some of these service stations are buying their gasoline in bulk in a 3-month contract because they don't know what the price is going to be.
Well, and
then
I was going to ask you that.
Stuck at those higher prices.
Yeah, we hear this with farmers regularly. They lock in the price of beans 6 months or a year ahead, and it's a calculated risk. They either think prices are going to go down, or they think they're in a really good place, or they want to play it safe and they're content with what the price is right now. With a lot of these gas station owners, they're buying fuel now for 3 months for now, right?
Yeah, I mean they're looking. They're going to be stuck at that contract, say, for 3 months and that's a smart business decision in a war because anything can change really quick. But the problem is when there's suddenly ceasefire, you still have to account for that 3-month contract at a higher rate. And that's why sometimes your independent service stations that are buying week to week and filling up their tanks, they're very volatile on their prices, but they can also bring them down a lot quicker once that, because they're just on a week by week contract. But most, for business purposes, for planning, you kind of want to have some kind of continuity and say, okay, I'll lock in at this price and it may go up and it may not, but I'm stuck at this price. So I feel safe and secure. I know how to budget. And unfortunately, when those prices change, they're really slow to change their price because they're stuck on that contract.
What about air travel? There are lots of people that get in their cars and they drive when they go on vacation. There are many others that either for pleasure or for business travel through the air. I saw a report yesterday that one airline, I don't remember which it was, has already added a $9 surcharge or addition to their baggage fee to help cover the cost of fuel that they're having to pay. Are we going to see prices continuing to kind of spin out of control with the airlines?
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that just like the automobile owner, the airlines are facing higher prices for their jet fuel, and they don't make as much jet fuel, and so there's not a big steady supply that they can turn back and turn on to get a cheaper price. So airlines, they're running on a thin margin, and they're gonna make the consumer pay. They're not going to just absorb that cost, and I certainly expect prices for airlines to go up because of the fuel prices for them.
Visiting with Don Redman, AAA Mississippi. As you sat back and watched over the last few weeks, the lines at the airport, the travails that travelers were dealing with, is it as simple as the TSA shortage, or was there something else that was going on?
No, it had everything to do with the manpower shortage. And it's not going to be an easy fix, because you had more than 300 who have resigned from their positions because how I can't, I'm missing mortgage payments and I have a son who's a federal employee who missed out the last shutdown, and boy, it was fortunately he had some money in savings and did that, but it was touch and go there. So for these guys, these families, they had to make a tough decision. This is no way to run a family budget, and we're about to have everything repossessed and lose everything. So you had a big, massive manpower shortage, and that was absolutely the cause of those lines. I don't think it's an easy fix. Once the shutdown ends, I mean, how do you replace all those people and train them? And so I think those who are planning to fly now are starting to weigh options. Should maybe how long, if I have to get to the airport 3 to 4 hours ahead of my flight, how much time am I really saving versus driving?
Yeah.
And then, of course, the expense.
Well, and some of those stories were from airports in places like Houston and New Orleans, and I didn't have, flying out of Memphis, a bad experience, but that doesn't mean it couldn't change and change pretty quickly. But to your point, when I would normally go and get on a plane to go to Athens, Georgia, or to Auburn, Alabama, and you might say that that's stupid to fly to those places anyway, I'm not doing it. I'm just avoiding the airport. I'm going to avoid the hassle of it. I'm going to get in my truck, and I'm going to drive. And I don't think I'm the only one that's making that decision.
No, we're seeing it through our own offices, people planning for trips and helping, using our Trip Tech Planner for their trips and looking at hotel discounts through AAA membership and what have you, because they're now changing their plans. But, for a lot of our AAA members in Mississippi, one of the popular destinations right now is Alaska. The Alaska cruise are on fire. They just love that. You can't drive to that. And so they're definitely looking at have to fly and those concerns to the West Coast and then on to Alaska.
Don Redman, our guest with AAA Mississippi. When people are thinking ahead to those summer vacations and trying to finalize plans for that, where are most people going? Yeah, you mentioned Alaska. What are the other popular spots?
Yeah, obviously Orlando is a big popular destination. You look in Tennessee is a big popular. Some of those are driving more so than flying, but whether it's Nashville or the Smoky Mountains, those kind of destinations. New York is still a popular destination, and then you go overseas. Ireland is a big popular one, as well as Spain is becoming quite popular for tours as well for AAA members.
Interesting stuff, Don. Always appreciate your time. Good catching up today.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Don Redman, AAA Mississippi. Be sure to check out their website. If you're not a member, you can take advantage of that and get great discounts. You can always get a AAA rate at a hotel and other travel savings as well. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi. We're back with you right after this.
How many of you that sit and judge me ever walk the streets of Bakersfield?
From the Venable Glass Trap.
In the car, at home, or at work, it's always free to listen to SuperTalk Mississippi and Mornings with Richard Cross.
I got bills at the parking
with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Thanks for joining us alongside Lance Tolbert. I'm Richard Cross. Appreciate Senator Daniel Sparks joining us to talk about all that's going on in the legislature in the 7 o'clock hour. And then Don Redman from AAA Mississippi to start things off in this 8 o'clock hour. Mornings with Richard Cross is presented by Community Bank. At Community Bank, we're here for every part of your financial journey, looking to manage your personal finances. Our banking services make it simple, secure, and tailored to you. Ready to grow your business? We offer expert guidance and custom solutions to help your business thrive. Dreaming of a new home? Our mortgage specialists are here to make the process seamless, all designed with you in mind. We're more than just a bank. We're your partner for life's biggest moments. Community Bank, rooted in our community. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. I think we should go back to the conversation with Senator Sparks, because a lot of you were chiming in during the conversation, and I think based on some of the reaction, this $120 million fine or reimbursement that Mississippi potentially is going to have to pay to the federal government is kind of new news. And you heard at one point Daniel Sparks say, I've been talking about this since last August. This is not directed at Senator Sparks, but maybe in a larger way to the legislature in whole. In some ways, the Capitol is a bubble. And people who are inside that Capitol bubble on a daily basis, whether you're talking about legislators, staff members, leadership, lobbyists, lawyers, inside that bubble, most everybody has got a pretty good idea of what's going on and is keeping up with all of the comings and goings. They miss things from time to time. But I think there's an assumption inside the Capitol bubble that everybody else is as focused and as singularly engaged as everybody within the bubble is on the goings on at the state capitol. And that's just not reality. The truth of the matter is, Lance, you and I probably pay more attention to what's happening at the state capitol than 99% of the state of Mississippi, and we miss things all the time.
Yeah, it's the depth of what's going on there and the amount of legislation, debates, committee meetings, hearings, just unlimited. Unlimited.
And it's basically impossible to keep up unless that is what you are doing all day, every day. But if you're doing it from a distance, like if you're not in the Capitol 3, 4, 5 days a week, then you're going to miss stuff. And sometimes you miss stuff even if you are in the Capitol that much. I say all that to say, if you're hearing about this for the first time, don't feel bad. But I'm glad that you're hearing about it. And when I asked Senator Sparks, like, hey, is it too late to fix this? He said, well, no, not really, but yeah, basically. Because by recommitting the bill and pulling it back up and voting on it and forcing a vote and all of the things that have to happen, all of the legislative rigmarole, which, by the way, is a very technical term, if you went through that process, you would be putting in danger the funding for the Department of Human Services in its entirety. So, let me give you the quick history on what happened here. There were two bills dealing with what we're talking about this morning, and that is the error rate of our reporting on SNAP benefits. So the welfare programs that exist in Mississippi, we have to report to the federal government what we're doing. And Senator Sparks actually laid this out quite clearly when he said, we're doing something that 49 other states in the United States are not doing. We are reporting updates to income levels and eligibility levels on a monthly basis. Nobody else does that. And because we are doing that, there is such a frequency when the other states are doing it every 6 months. And Senator Sparks said USDA has said to the state of Mississippi, you're making this way harder than it's got to be. You shouldn't do that. Go to simple reporting and do it every 6 months, and your error rate will go down. Well, I'm not going to jump to that conclusion yet. Let's work our way there. So the entity who provides the majority of the money to you to distribute to those who are in need through the social welfare programs in Mississippi, I don't know if we can call it that anymore, through DHS programs in Mississippi. The entity that provides that money is telling you, hey, Mississippi, you're being too stringent in your reporting. Stop. Don't do that. We don't need monthly reports. And we don't need these complex metrics you're using. We need simple reporting twice a year. Just do that. That's what everybody else is doing. No, we've got this way where we want to stay on top and we want to make sure that nobody's receiving benefits that they shouldn't be receiving and that everybody that should be receiving benefits is. And we're going to do it this way. And doing it this way leads to errors. And it's not always big errors. But this is like if you're a college athletics program that twice a month is sending a report to the NCAA saying, hey, we messed up here, hey, we messed up there, hey, we messed up here, hey, we messed up there. Deep down, the NCAA doesn't want that much communication from you. Like, once a year, I mean, if you screwed up on a couple of things, let us know. Do some self-reporting. It makes it look good from a transparency standpoint, and we'll move on. That's what the USDA is saying to the state of Mississippi. We don't want this all the time. We don't want you to send us money back. But if the error rate you are reporting is greater than 6%, there's going to be a penalty. And if it's greater than 8%, there's going to be a larger penalty. If it's greater than 10%, there's going to be a larger penalty, and so on and so forth. And Mississippi has a greater than 12% error reporting rate in terms of distribution of SNAP benefits. And so there was legislation that was in place this year that would have fixed the reporting mechanism, that would have gotten us away from this technology-based, super sensitive reporting system, and would have gotten us under the percentage error rate that is allowed. It passed in the Senate, and it went to the House Committee on Medicaid for further discussion, where the bill died. Senate Bill, let's see here, 2765. And I'm not going to bore you with reading the entire text, but it was an act to bring forward code sections of the Mississippi Code and amend them. Introduced and referred to the Committee on Senate Medicaid. Passed by the Committee on Senate Medicaid. Brought to the Senate for discussion on February 4th. Passed 47-5 on the Senate floor. Received in the House and not referred immediately. The next day it was referred to House Medicaid. It died in committee. Now, some of you earlier were saying, hey, call out the legislators who voted against this. Nobody technically voted against it. 47-5 on the Senate side. Never had to put House members on the record because it died in the Medicaid committee. Medicaid chairwoman is Missy McGee. Vice Chairman Clay Mansell. Members of the Medicaid Committee in the House: Donnie Bell, Bo Brown, Bryant Clark, Becky Curry, Bob Evans, Jimmy Fondren, Justice Gibbs, John Hines, Joey Hood, Robert Johnson, Sam Mims, Brent Powell, Rob Robertson, Donnie Scoggin, Omarius Scott, Jerry Turner, Lee Yancey. A lot of good people, a lot of smart people on that committee. Bill died in committee. Never made it to the House floor. In effect saying, we are okay with setting $120 million on fire. But why did it not get out of committee? Why?
From theseabrook.com.
Stay social during the show at SuperTalk Mississippi on Facebook. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi and the SuperTalk app.
I ain't ready for the junkyard yet, 'cause I still feel like a new Corvette. It might take a little longer, but I'll get there. Well, I don't need your rocking chair. I don't need your rocking chair.
Great with you on this Wednesday morning, middle of the week. Today is April 1st, 2026. Just a reminder, somebody's probably going to try and pull a prank on you. If it's one of your kids, it might be silly and fun. If it's a coworker, well, they're trying to get you. They're trying to get you, so heads up on that. I wish I could tell you that the conversation about the $120 million bill that the state of Mississippi is going to be on the hook of because of its SNAP error rates was an April Fool's joke. It, unfortunately, is not. So kind of in going through the process a second ago, we talked about the Senate bill that didn't make it out of committee. There was also a House bill that addressed the same issue. And that House bill, well, ultimately it was signed off on. And Daniel Sparks himself signed off on that conference report. But that's what he was talking about yesterday. If you want to watch it, you can go back. There is a live stream of the House proceedings that's available on YouTube. I'm sorry, the Senate proceedings that's available on YouTube from yesterday. And it was at about 3:30, 3:35 yesterday afternoon, which is about the 5.5-hour mark on yesterday's Senate video. If you want to hear the moment of personal privilege where Daniel Sparks apologized to certain members and staff members for blowing up because of his frustration, and then hear some sarcasm and a reference to Steve Holland, you may go back and watch that. I did just that last night. So he also addressed in that he was encouraging the membership in the Senate to sign House Bill 1772, to vote for, not sign it, but to vote for it, but explain why he didn't sign the conference report. He voted for the conference report. Ultimately, it passed 52-0 in the Senate, but he did not sign it because his amendment that would include the error rate reporting update was stripped from the bill. I want to go back and say what I said earlier before I go any farther. I think in the last 3 weeks in particular, the 2026 legislative session has been good. I think some of the pettiness that we saw on full display early in the session was set aside. I think you had members on both ends of the hall who decided they had had enough with some of the back and forth and the yeah and started working together, especially in terms of committee leadership, especially on the budget. And they have gotten some really, really good things done. not getting the error rate on SNAP benefits fixed is a black eye on the 2026 legislature. Why? It's a black eye because everyone from the governor's mansion all the way to the newest, lowest ranking member of the House of Representatives and the Senate, every single one of them, regardless of political party, Republican, Democrat, or Independent, at some time leading toward their election by the people of Mississippi, has addressed fiscal responsibility, has addressed the fact that I want to be a good steward of your tax dollars. They may have different ideas about how money should be spent. They may have different ideas about how programs should be administered. They may have different ideas about which policies are best for the state of Mississippi, but all of them, every single one of them, governor, lieutenant governor, state auditor, state treasurer, attorney general, legislators, leadership in the Senate, leadership in the House, every single one of them, without fail, there is not a single exception, has said to voters, I will be responsible with your tax dollars. Trust me to represent you at our state capitol. And if you vote, I think you have a duty to ask your legislator, be it a senator or a House member, if you want to send a letter to the governor or the lieutenant governor or the Speaker of the House and say, please explain to me why you say I should trust you when there is an obvious fix, a simple fix to save the state $120 million next year. And when I say save the state $120 million, it's not, oh, this is $120 million that we're not going to get, that's not going to be allocated to us. It's not like you buy a lottery ticket and you don't win. It's as if you bought a lottery ticket that had a prize associated with it, and when you scratched it off, if you didn't win, you owed the lottery that money. You weren't just out the $2, $5, $10, $30 that you spent on that scratch-off ticket to give yourself a chance to win the money. You actually had to pay the lottery. This is an example. This is not real life. The prize money that you were trying to win. That's what this is. This isn't, well, the federal government was going to send us $120 million, but we're standing on principle and we're not going to take that money. Therefore, it doesn't go into the budget. No, this is, we now, because we willingly chose not to fix the error, we have to write a check to Washington for $120 million. What could you have done with that $120 million? I know of 8 public university presidents and a medical school administrator that would do backflips naked down the middle of Main Street in their hometown for their cut of that $120 million. That might not be literal. Might not be literal. I know an executive director at MDOT that would be thrilled with $100 million, $120 million. Even though their budget's in a much better place than it has been, Brad White would be thrilled to have $120 million. I know of 82 counties, all 82 of them, unanimous, would be incredibly grateful if you divided that $120 million by 82 and sent each of them a check. Road projects, infrastructure projects, festivals, create the Department of Tourism. Give it to David McRae and just tell him to invest it. Say, hey, we were going to have to write this check to Washington. Instead, we're going to write it to ourselves. Can you get a return on this? The list of things that you could do with $120 million. And, oh, by the way, we have become so numb to how much money that is, it's just a number. It's not real. Now, if I deposited $120 million in your checking account, it would become real fast. But when it's government, it's like, it's just another big number. No, it's not. It's real money. And there's literally an infinite number of things that you could do good with that $120 million other than just sending it to Washington. Because you were too stubborn to fix what was easily fixable.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
News, interviews, weather, sports, all right here, all morning long. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Hey, putting you down won't square the deal. At least you know the way I feel. Hey, take all the money in the bank. Think I'll just stay here and drink. Hey,
I suppose for today we have belabored the point enough. I'll just leave you with one question. It's a question for you to ponder. It's a question for me to ponder, for all of us to dig on a little bit. And it's a one-word question. Simple. Why? Why would the Senate vote 47-5 in favor of fixing the system by which error rates are calculated in Mississippi? 47-5. But it wouldn't even get out of committee in the House side. I have my suspicions as to why. But I got to do a little more digging before I just let it fly on that. Lance and I talked about that during the break. Like, do I go down this road? I think we will. But I want to ask some more questions. I want to be 100% sure that I'm right. I would love for us to be able to get Missy McGee on and ask her that question. Why did that bill die in committee? And the next time the speaker's on, we'll ask him the same question. Why did this die? Why did it not get out of committee? Why didn't it get to the floor for a vote? I asked Delbert Hoseman the exact same question about sports gambling, mobile sports betting. He said, well, it hadn't gotten out of committee. But why not? Why not get it out of committee and have your members go on record as voting yay or nay? Because we're walking away from somewhere between $12 and $20 million in tax revenue on that, on something that people are doing anyway. And Senator Blunt, who's chair of the Gaming Commission, told us that, or of the Gaming Committee in the Senate, told us, we've got these predictive markets that are effectively sports gambling anyway. Oh, it's going on anyway, legally and illegally. Let's put everybody on record. Are you voting for it or are you voting against it? We have heard from legislator after legislator after legislator, this budget is tight and it's going to get tighter. Yes, we have some money in the bank, but it's going to get tighter. There are a lot of things that we would have liked to have funded, but we didn't, and we can't because we don't have the money. We don't have the money is about to fall on hollow and deaf ears to me when we are choosing to burn $120 million, plus choosing not to collect somewhere between $12 and $20 million. And Senator Blunt, and I appreciate him coming on a month or so ago and talking about this, but his rationale was, well, it's not as much money as it was because of these Kalshi markets. What? Say that out loud and make it make sense on planet Earth. Well, it was probably 18 to 25 million that we would have been collecting, but it's only 12 to 15, maybe 20 million now. So, it's not as much money. So do we have a budget issue or not? Do we have enough money or not? With all due respect to Senator Blunt, and again, I appreciate him coming on, but that was one of the dumbest arguments I have ever heard come out of a politician's mouth. Well, it's not as much money as it was, so I'll stop for now. But the question that I am left with is why? Today is April Fool's Day. The origins of April Fools are somewhat unknown. One theory suggests that it began in 1582 when France switched from the Julian to the Gregorian calendar. Those who continued celebrating the new year on April 1st, the old date, were mocked as fools. Some point to the Hilaria Festival. Historians link it to the ancient Roman festival of Hilaria, held at the end of March, where people dressed in disguises and mocked others. The earliest possible literary reference is found in Geoffrey Chaucer's The Canterbury Tales, published in 1392, though the mention of March 32nd is often debated as a typo. Geoffrey Chaucer, pretty smart guy. That wasn't a typo. Come on. Some of the media outlets and corporations that have taken advantage through the years of April Fool's Day. In 1957, the BBC broadcast a segment showing Swiss farmers harvesting spaghetti from trees, fooling thousands of their viewers into believing that there were actually spaghetti trees. Taco Bell took out full-page ads in 1996 claiming that it had purchased the Liberty Bell to help with the nation's national debt, rebranding it the Taco Liberty Bell. And in 1998, Burger King got in on the act with the left-handed Whopper. You familiar with this one, Lance?
Those last two, I remember.
Burger King advertised a burger with ingredients rotated 180 degrees for left-handed customers. April Fools. Hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks for being with us. For Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard Cross. This is Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank.
So I decided right then and there I was going to do what's right, give her fair share. But brother, I didn't know her share was going to be that much.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.